Hello, my name is Joshua Harper, and me and Michaela Bowen did our cultural presentation project on the Hispanic culture. So the first part of our project is on the geographical location. Most Spanish-speaking people come from Latin America, which includes Central America, South America, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. A lot of Hispanic people have migrated to areas in Texas and in Miami, but Hispanic people are all over the United States, and as healthcare providers, we have to be ready to be able to understand their culture and language and be sensitive to the things that are important to them just because they are from or they may migrate to certain areas doesn't mean that we won't see them where we currently live at. So one important thing with Hispanic culture is the family roles. A lot of times in the traditional Hispanic family, the father or the oldest male, if there's not a father, will be the main authority. So they make a lot of the decisions for the family. They are the final say in what goes on and what happens. But a lot of times they are a collectivist culture, meaning they're a family unit. So even though the father makes the final say, every family member has a chance to participate in the decision making. They usually don't make decisions without consulting everybody in the family and finding out what each family member's opinion is. And a lot of times their families are very large, so they have a very large household. We may have like a mother and a father with 6 or 7 children. Maybe the grandparents live with them. Maybe even other relatives like cousins or aunts and uncles. They all may live together. And also another fact that we found out is that the mother or like the matriarch of the family may say, hey, we need to go to the doctors or we need to go to the hospital. And so but the father is the one who kind of decides, okay, we're going to finally go and see the doctor. We're going to go to the hospital and make that decision. For the communication, because they are Hispanic, a lot of them will speak the Spanish language. Depending on where they're from, the dialect may be different. So Spanish in Mexico might be slightly different than the Spanish in Guatemala or maybe even South America. So just because even as somebody who does speak Spanish, you may not catch all the language and the translations correctly if somebody is from a different Spanish-speaking country than what you are from. Television, radio, and the internet are ways of communication. So just like, especially if they live here in the United States, they get their information from the same places that we do. Their language is very expressive and warm. A lot of Hispanic culture are very touchy. So they do handshakes, they hug. It's not uncommon to see 2 women kiss each other on the cheek or a man and a woman to do that. And just while they're talking, they may touch hands or arms. And it's a part of greeting and just a normal part of the communication that they have. So for healthcare beliefs, religion plays a really big role in the decisions that are made. So a lot of times they think that their sickness or disease is God's will for their life, and they can be accepting of that. There's even some Hispanic people who use healers or herbal remedies. So not only would they use Western medicine and interventions, but they're going to use different kinds of foods, maybe different kinds of oils that they have. One of the things that we learned is the humoral imbalance. So it's kind of like the environment is expressed in hot and cold, and you have the 4 humors in the body. So blood would be hot and wet, the yellow bile is hot and dry, phlegm is cold and wet, and the black bile would be cold and dry. So a lot of times if you have a sickness that is considered like a fever, they would give something cold, maybe like cold water or something to help combat that. To correct the imbalance, you consume foods or herbs with the opposite of the quality. Another word that they have is mal de ojo, which means bad eye. So basically, it's if you give someone direct eye contact, it could mean a form of jealousy to the other person, and sometimes people think that they will get sick, fatigue, or have a severe headache. And Vidya is envy, and it can. So if you're envious towards somebody, you may have bad luck and you can be sick. So empacho means illness that is an illness that can also result from a dislocation of different parts of the body. For example, if you have an upset stomach, the thought is that whatever caused that could have been eating the wrong kinds of food at the wrong times of day, eating undercooked food, or even swallowing gum. So the treatment for empacho is rubbing the stomach or back gently with cooking oil or pinching the spine. The last part is susto, which is also known as fright sickness, and it arises from a traumatic event or an experience, and it is thought to cause a loss of the soul. So symptoms could be anxiety, depression, insomnia, irritability, lethargy, and anorexia. And for my last part is the nutrition. So vegetables are one big part of the diet that Hispanic cultures eat. They also in South Americans are known to eat more fruits and vegetable intake just because it's more tropical in those areas. Grains also make up 77% of their diet because they like to eat the tortilla, so the wheat and flour is very big. Also corn is a very big food staple, and red meat makes up 1/3 of their diet, and poultry, as in like chicken and such, also make up a big portion of their diet. Alcohol consumption is pretty moderate across all the backgrounds, so no matter if they're from Central or South America, it kind of seems to be the same throughout.
Pregnancy and childbearing is a big deal in the Hispanic culture. They believe in several stages. Curatina is a period of approximately 40 days in which the newly delivered woman should be cared for by a mother figure and avoid certain cold foods, not work physically, or be exposed to drafts of air. They also believe in assigning godparents or a godmother or godfather. They build a lifelong bond not only with the child but with the parent, and would step into the parental role if need be, if something were to happen to the parents. High-risk health behaviors and common diseases. They're really at high risk for heart disease and cancer. They have high death rates from diabetes, chronic liver disease, and cirrhosis. The research that we found was not all that different from other cultures. It seems that the Hispanic cultures are high risk for about the same common diseases as any other culture. They do have higher risk when low poverty levels, low education levels, or limited English are barriers to seeking out health care. And in their culture, getting a disease is a bigger concern than actually dying. Their attitudes towards healthcare providers, usually they avoid going to the doctor and would rather seek out home remedies from family and friends. They do prefer to be listened to and asked for their opinions. However, they tend to ultimately want the doctor to make the final decision. A lot of them report being dissatisfied with overall healthcare experiences because they feel like there's no cultural sensitivity and there's often a language barrier. Spiritual and death rituals. Most Hispanics are Roman Catholic, so usually towards the end of their life, the care is performed by a female family member. They're cared for at home until they pass away. They stay by their bedside throughout the illness, and it kind of gives them a time to reminisce and remember the good times and have those final moments with their loved ones. They do receive last rites and blessings from a priest. Also, they often accept communion if available. The family holds a wake. Services usually include a lot of memories being shared of the deceased. Flowers and candles are usually lit. There's a mass held within a church, and then followed by the traditional burial service, and then the mourners gather for meal and reception afterwards. Suggestions for nursing implications include making sure to provide respect for any differences in beliefs. The family is involved in all decision making, so it's important to share health information with the whole family so that they can come together and make the decision on what care is best for them. Be sure to allow the inclusion of traditional and folk medicine, as that will help build a bond of trust and respect between you and the patient. Respect that the father is the patriarch and the family as a whole is very close. So they will discuss medical decisions, but ultimately the father will have the final say-so. Be sure to offer appropriate language services and respect any cultural differences. Health promotion. Prevention is very important to stress to them, such as prevention of heart disease and diabetes. Things like exercise, smoking cessation, and medication compliance. You want to make sure that they come for preventative care and make sure that they know how necessary it is to come, even if they feel like it'll be a negative experience, because it can help prevent some of the diseases that they're most at risk for. You want to make sure that they have nutritional education as far as how to eat healthy and prevent some of these diseases that they may be at risk for. Ethical considerations. For the ethical considerations, we looked at a dilemma, and it says, what should the nurse do when a one-day postpartum Hispanic woman refuses to eat the food on her lunch tray for fear that it may make her vulnerable after consuming cold foods? In this dilemma, the best resolution would be for the nurse to work with the dietitian and the patient to come up with a meal plan that would provide the nutrients that the new mother needs while also respecting her beliefs. And then that plan should be communicated to any staff making or delivering the food to ensure that the patient has an appropriate meal tray moving forward for the rest of her stay. And these are our references.